Alrighty, guys. So for persuasive speaking, this is going to be basically the pinnacle of everything we've worked for, right? This is our last speech we're going to be giving, and so we've been building on these speeches. Whether you guys know it or not, we have had different objectives for these speeches as well as time limits, okay? And so for our first speech, we came up here and we did 1 minute of talking. Might have felt horrible. It was an impromptu speech, so you just came up here. You know, you didn't know what you were going to be doing, so you didn't plan it out, but you talked for 1 minute. That was really just to get us comfortable, right? Or maybe not comfortable, but get those first day jitters out. A lot of people don't like public speaking, right? And so our next speech, we came up here and we did, what was that, 2 to 3 minutes? No? Yeah, 2 to 3 minutes. Or was it 3 to 4?
It was a peer speech thing.
Peer speech, yes. Peer speech was 2 minutes, and then we did 3 to 4 minutes for our demonstrative speech. There we go. And so as we see, we've been moving up in little increments, right? Trying to building us up slowly to our persuasive speech. This is going to be our longest speech, right? It's going to be 6 to 10 minutes for you guys. Minimum 6, max 10. And like I said, as we saw today, it's getting a little easier for us to talk longer, right? We didn't expect when we came up here and did our 1 minute speech about ourselves, we weren't expecting to be able to come up here and do 6 minutes. On the first day of class, I had to ask you to speak 6 minutes. You've been like, what, right? But we're there now. All of you guys, I'm not having a problem in this class specifically. I'm not really having a problem with you guys not hitting time. Some of my other classes are still having trouble getting under time, getting to time, but you guys are doing really well. So I'm not worried about you guys at all for our time limits. Y'all are doing great with that. So that's a big thing for our speech. It's going to be longer than our other speeches, right? What we're looking at, the main thing we're going to learn for this speech, right, is 1, rhetoric. Okay, so rhetoric is basically persuasion, how you can convince people to listen to what you're talking about, basically. Persuasion or rhetoric is the type of speech we use in most everyday life, right? That's when you're talking with your mom and telling her that you just read that air fresheners are bad, you shouldn't use those, you should use essential oil diffusers in the house. That's arguing with your friend and saying that Kobe's the best player, was the best player, Michael Jordan, whatever, right? That's, you're persuading someone to do something. And so those may not be formal speeches that you've written out and organized, right? But those are aspects of persuasion. You're using methods of persuasion. You're using facts, you're using details to try and persuade people. And so with our last speech, our informative speech, we just learned how to use our sources, right? So we're doing research and we're using reliable sources. We're not using just some random source on the internet that doesn't have a date. It doesn't have an author, you know, just some random site. We're looking for reliable sources. They have an author. It's credible. Maybe if you're talking about something like stem cell research, you want to use a doctor. You know, I don't want to use old Joe that just has a random opinion. We learned about credibility throughout here. Why are you credible to be giving this speech, right? Some of our speeches, I don't think many of us had, let's say, speeches that may have needed a doctor or something like that. But in my other class, a lot of them used scientific informative speeches, and so they needed a source like a doctor or somebody that is credible and able to give that type of information. So with our persuasive speeches, it's really important to be able to use that informative speech aspect of saying, yeah, according to Dr. Carl on the CDC website, you know, that's really important to persuade people, because why do you want to listen to me? So that's something we're going to really be focusing on this persuasive speech. So whether, and like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean saying Dr. so-and-so, but you should listen to me because I've done extensive research on this topic. Because I've brought you these sources, right? Because I'm using XYZ argument. Because I've thoroughly researched my counter argument, which we'll get to. But in these persuasive speech, we want to make sure when we're opening that speech, you guys are doing great with your attention getters, right? We're using those striking statements, facts, statistic, or we're using rhetorical questions to get our audience's attention, right? Or maybe a funny joke or quote, something like that. We're doing great with that. Also having a rationale, right? Why am I giving you this speech, right? Like Stacey said today, I'm sure all of you brushed your hair today. You know, we all have hair. Why do we need to know about hair types? We all have hair, okay? So that's the relevance, the rationale, why I'm giving you this speech. So that's in there. But what we're going to be adding for this speech is your credibility aspect. Why are we talking about this speech? What's the importance, and why are you talking about it specifically? Because I've researched. because I'm interested in this topic, because I worked in this field, whatever it may be. You obviously have to find a creative way to address your credibility depending on the topic, But why are you persuading us not to buy from Shein in the fast fashion industry? Oh, I worked for Route 21 when I was 15, whatever it may have been, and I've seen a lot of fast fashion trends, how clothes are, whatever it may be, right? So that's a credibility aspect, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, I have a master's degree in this topic, that's why I'm teaching you guys speech, On an aspect of that, an example of that, on my resume, I always put, obviously, right, I went to school for public speaking, but why do I want to be a public speaking teacher, right? I always say that I'm a natural born communicator, both by nature and trade. That's one of my objectives on my resume, right? Because mouth of the South, that's what they always told me. I talk. And so when you look at my cover letter, I say something like, I was always a talkative person, but I honed in on my natural communication skills and turned it into my passion, teaching. I went to school to turn my blabbermouth, right, into a job. So that's my credibility statement. Not only that I went to school and got 2 degrees in order to be able to teach this, but I also have a, passion or natural act for communicating, right? And so that's going to be a credibility statement. That's something you guys need to try and incorporate in that introduction. Thesis statement, that's going to be, you guys are already doing that. That's a preview, right? That's just a preview. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the 3 different hair types. Kobe, you gave us good, clear body paragraphs. Some of us are still kind of rambling in those body paragraphs, so it just seems like one big ramble. So if I'm talking about George Washington, I don't want to just ramble and talk about George Washington. I want you to be able to say, for this next topic, my next point, I'm going to tell you about George Washington's political career. Okay? Or I'm going to say, now that I've talked to you all about his political career, let me tell you how that's influenced his legacy. So I want different, not necessarily that it has to be 3 different body paragraphs, but you should have clear transitions, and I'm going to post a page on transitions to help y'all with that. But we need 3, not necessarily 3, but I need clear distinctions between your topics, right? So for Stacy's, we had 3 clear distinctions. Her different topic paragraphs would be the 3 different hair types, right? And I knew when we were switching to a different topic, right? That's just really easy for me to remember. I don't remember all of our speeches from last class. So that's 3 distinct paragraphs, right? For Mr. Kobe's, I was able to say, okay, now you were talking about, Conor McGregor. Now we're going to talk about Conor McGregor's business life, Now we're going to talk about his boxing, fighting score, whatever it might, you see what I'm trying to say. But I was able to clearly catch on when he said, okay, now we're going to be talking about his business. We started talking about his whiskey. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at for the rest of us to be able to do. I want to see 3 at least, you can have more if you want, less if you need. But I need to see clear transitions and distinctions in paragraphs, not just rambling through about Conor McGregor's life and everything, right? Because all of it's not relevant. You could have talked about his childhood. You could have talked about his siblings, right? And so there's information that you purposely put in your speech, right? You constructed this speech, you crafted it, you made your paragraphs, you made your subtopics. So you purposely put certain information in, and you purposely left certain information out. So we need to know exactly what you're going to be talking about in each paragraph. That's really important for persuasive speaking as well, because we're adding in counter arguments, right? So that's going to be a whole different topic on its own, which we are getting to. Okay, so we went through the introduction body. For our persuasive speeches, I tell you guys, no topic is a hot topic, right? At the end of the day, I would be happy if some teachers have hot topics like, let's say you can't talk about the death penalty, right? You can't talk about Donald Trump or Joe Biden, like political topics, right? Things that are really polarized. My take on that is that the most I can get out of this class would be if you came up here and gave a speech about something you actually cared about, and you were able to effectively articulate what you wanted us to know about this and have valid arguments. Whether I agree with it, whether your classmates agree with it, I'm happy because this is something that you can actually use in your daily life. This is something you believe in, whatever it may be. Now you can go and you've learned something and you know how to argue it, basically. And so rhetoric, which we're doing, or persuasion, same thing, that's really close to like debate, right? Not to say I want you guys to come and debate, of course. Mind you, this topic will be opened up if we have time. Might have to split into 2 days, not sure. But this topic will be opened up for this speech to have questions, and we haven't been doing that. But because if you've researched your topic, well, I want you to be able to know how to defend it, right? And so that's what we're doing. So in these body paragraphs, right, we're going to split that into, so let's say my topic is dog shelters, right? I think that everyone should get their dogs from a dog shelter, right? Not from a breeder. Mind you, I use just whatever, because I have a purebred German Shepherd, so not necessarily that I think you guys have to do that. But if my topic is that you should be getting your dog, I'm trying to persuade my audience to get dogs from dog shelters, right? Instead of getting them from breeders. So let's have 2 body paragraphs. What would the first one be? Maybe cost efficient. I think everyone should get their dog from a dog from a dog shelter, because it's more cost efficient for you, right? That's my logic. That's one of my methods of persuasion. Logic, right? That's called logos, and we're going to go over that. That's called logos, and so I'm using logic to persuade my audience. Why would you pay $800 for a dog from a breeder when you could get a free dog from a dog shelter, right? Second, maybe my second point, evidence number 2, or support number 2, would be that dog shelters put down 20,000 dogs a year in the U.S., right? That's my second point. And obviously you want to support, that's where you're going to add in under evidence 1 or identify evidence, whatever. That's where you're going to put in your sources, right? According to the National Humane Society, in 2022, however many dogs were put down, right? That's where we're going to put our evidence. So that's 2 paragraphs, right? 1, I have logic, which is logos, and we're going to get to, I kind of jumped. My logic argument is that why would you pay money for a dog that you can already get, right, for free? Because dog shelters do actually have a lot of purebred dogs, which a lot of people don't know. They think there's just a lot of mutts at dog shelters, right? But there's a lot of purebred dogs. What was that?
Mutts matter too.
Mutts do matter. Mutts do matter. But I'm saying a lot of people that are looking for purebred dogs don't know that dog shelters actually do have a lot of purebred dogs there that you can get. So why would you spend money on it when you can just be on the lookout at animal shelters? That's using logic. But my second argument that they're putting down so many dogs, that's a pathos argument, right? And so I'm using emotion to appeal to your sense. So for my third paragraph, though, we're going to be addressing that counter argument, right? So your counter argument is going to be, if, say, I'm going to pick a really polarizing topic real quick, because your audience will automatically have an opinion already formed in their head, right? So if I get up here and I tell you, I'm going to say why Donald Trump is the best argument ever. Was the best president ever. Everybody already has an opinion in their mind before I even start to give you anything, right? And so whatever that reason for disagreeing with me is, I need to address that, right? And so if I can give you this long list of why I thought Donald Trump was the best, and in your head you're still talking about, but he did this, right? Or but he did that. So you need to address that in your argument, right? So if I gave you this long list of why Joe Biden was the best president ever, right? You're not listening to that because I didn't address what you're already thinking in your head. And so what you could be thinking, I gave you this long list of, Joe Biden did this, this, and this, right? In your head, you're like, but unemployment rates have been down his whole term, right? I need to address that, right? So in my argument, I'm not sure if they actually have, I'm not using actual facts. This is just hypothetical argument I'm using, right? So I need to say, give all the good stuff about Joe Biden, right? Then I need to think of your counter argument like a little footnote at the bottom in the fine print, right? Because I don't want to have a counter argument. I don't want to address it good enough to where my audience agrees with me, right? Your counter argument is against what you're saying. So you don't want your argument to convince people against you. You just want to address it a little bit at the bottom. So I'd say something like, yes, despite Joe Biden's unemployment rates being the lowest they have in 20 years, yada, 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 that is because of the war going on in Ukraine. Or that is because of oil prices, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it may be, you address it, and then that's what's called refuting it. So I'm saying, yes, this is true, but this is the reason, right? So a little footnote at the bottom, right before you conclude. So yeah, basically that is true, or that's not true because, right? Like I said, those are not facts that I was giving you 20 years unemployment. That's just off the top of my head, right? So you need to research your topic thoroughly. That strengthens your argument. Giving your counter argument in there is not giving your audience a reason to doubt you, right? So it shows that you're thoroughly researched. If you found your counter argument, you address it and then say, yeah, it's a common misconception that unemployment rates have been so high because Joe Biden blank, blank, blank. That's a common misconception. This is the actual reason. What is your audience going to say then? Their counter argument, right? What are they going to say? They're not as researched as you when it comes to this topic. So when you come up here, you are the sole authority on what you're presenting. Nobody is as well researched as you are when you come up here to tell us about whatever your topic's going to be, right? So we come up here with confidence, okay? First of all, we come up here, confidence, and like I said, if you're going to mess up, you might mess up. You might say 2022 instead of 2023. You might say unemployment rates are at 70% and they're really at 60%. Whatever it may be, your audience doesn't know that, right? So you mess up, you keep going, right? That's what we're looking for. This class is about getting your confidence up, really, right? I'm not fact checking you. I'm not up there Googling. I don't have your outline pulled up and say, oh, she didn't say this when she was supposed to, or that's not the correct number. No, I'm looking that you're getting comfortable up here. You're able to talk to us without having a nervous breakdown. You're not going 2 minutes and it's supposed to be 6, right? Big points. So like I said, we're going to have 2 pieces of evidence. We're going to support our evidence with sources, and then we're going to go ahead and hit our counter argument, and then we're going to refute it, and then we're going to go into our conclusion, right? And our conclusion, what we want to do, which Miss Stacy did do today, we're going to go for our call to action, right? So usually I said at the end of your conclusion, we want to preview, right? You can't do a call to action, but you want to preview. Okay, so today we talked about this, and I hope you guys learned a lot about blank, 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 right? So for our conclusion this time, for our persuasive speech, we're looking for our call to action, okay? So we want to still preview. So today I'll talk to you about the 3 different hair types, the 3 most common hair types, and you had a call to action. You said something about looking to see if you have more than one hair type in your head, right? That's a call to action. So I challenge you to see what type of hair type you are, right? So when you're giving a persuasive speech, that's what you want to do. You want to have a call to action. You want to challenge your audience to do something, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an action. I'm not going to challenge you. So say I'm talking about a political topic. I'm not going to say you have to go. I challenge you to go register to vote. Can you do that? Yeah, sure. Be the difference, make the change, whatever. But I can also say if I'm doing a topic like dog shelters, like I talked about, I don't necessarily have to say I challenge you to go get a dog from a dog shelter, or you should get your next dog from a dog shelter. I don't have to say that. I can also say a call to action like, you should go look at your Facebook page for your local animal shelter and see how many purebred dogs they have, or to see how many dogs, if they're full, see the vacancies. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your audience physically doing something, because I know it says call to action, but it can also be for them you're calling them to challenge their own thoughts about the topic. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to be go adopt a dog from a dog shelter, go look at your hair type, but you want to challenge your audience to kind of reflect, right? That's the goal of a call to action. And that was down here. Yeah, that's what we just went over, call to action. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to... I'm pulling up my PowerPoint. Give me a second. We're going to jump to types of persuasive speeches, okay? So when we're picking our persuasive speeches, we have 3 different kinds. We have a factual speech, and that's I'm coming to you with facts. Why should we... No, that's not good. I'm coming to you with facts. That's basically an informative speech, right? So I'm coming to you with all facts, and then I'm trying to persuade you to do something. So that's benefits of healthy foods, right? Why should you only be a vegan, right? And that's not including the argument for animals, right? Because that's going to go under a values argument. But I'm going to use that argument, why should you be a vegan, for health benefits, right? So that's going to be using facts. I'm going to tell you because people that are vegan live longer. I'm going to tell you because people that are vegan have more energy. Not that that's true. I'm not a vegan. But those are examples, right? So that's called a factual persuasive speech. But we also have values, or think of it like morals, right? So that's gene cloning. Or genetic modification. Say a lot of people, there's a thing now to where if you're doing like IVF or something like that, you're able to modify your genes. Say you want a boy, or you want a boy with blue eyes. So that's gene modification. Is that okay? So that's a persuasive speech because you have to pick a side on it, right? I'm not just informing you of what it is. I'm telling you, basically, I'm questioning the moral value of this specific topic, right? Whether you agree with it or don't, pick a side. And that's what the difference also from our informative speech. We're clearly picking a side, and we're stating that in the beginning. We're not keeping our audience guessing till the end. We're not going to give facts, both sides. No, this speech is biased, and you want to come at it from a biased point of view, right? You want to go and research all of the reasons your audience should agree with you. Like I said, we also want to research the reasons they shouldn't. That's our counter argument. You want to be informed of your counter argument, right? Because like I said, at the end of the day, you can give a great speech, all these facts, all these wonderful sources, but if your audience is still left with questions or doubts about your speech that you didn't address, they don't care, right? But she didn't talk about this. What about XYZ, right? Back to values, though. Values are going to be any type of topic that has moral ambiguity. Can't get it out. Do you get what I'm saying? Yes, there we go. Any type of questionable moral topics. The death penalty. That's basically moral or values aligned, right? Are there facts? Yeah, but it's more so based on moral compass type of thing. Last one is going to be policy. So that's anything that has to do with laws, government, legislation, anything like that, okay? That's should prostitution be legal, right? That kind of jumps also into values, but it's also a policy as well because there's laws against it, right? But a lot of people believe if you're not hurting other people, what's the problem, right? But also there's a problem of, people that are in sex slaves. They're the point of people being like pimped out, different things. People against their will in that career choice, right? So that would kind of double dip into values as well as legislation, but I'd pick it for legislation just because you get arrested if you're caught doing prostitution, right? Fossil fuels, gun control, those are all going to be topics that have to do with legislation, right? So before you get started, you need to pick what type of topic you want to be in, right? You're going to talk about something in the moral field. Violent video games. Should children be watching violent video games? Screen times for young children. And you have to kind of look at your topic as well. Screen time for young children. That's a morals thing because some parents don't care. My kid can have an iPad, he's not crying, right? But, so that could be under values, but it can also be under factual because we know that children, the earlier they're getting their iPads now, there's lots of studies coming out that children are having speaking deficits as well as social trouble socially when they're entering kindergarten and pre-K, right? So that can go under factual or value, like a lot of them can. So if they can't go under two different topics, you can choose to address both categories, right? So, to go over a couple more topics. Topic right here. All right, and this is, of course, as always, listed. A couple different topics. What's the effect of the new push for electric vehicles? What type of category would that be under? Electric vehicles. Can anybody give me a guess? Give me a guess. We got factual, we got value. Factual, yes. Mm-hmm. Do we know what other topic it could be under?
It would be under the moral one too, because of like the last one. What's the last one again?
Yeah. policy in legislation. And yeah, you actually made a good point for the moral value and the value one. But it depends on how you frame this question. So we have to look at framing. So if I want to go ahead and talk about what is the effect of the new push for electric vehicles, the effect of it would be the environment, right? And so that's going to be more of a moral standpoint, right? Because we care about the environment, no pollution, whatever. That's moral. But if I want to say something like, do you think it's good or bad? What is it? What? Social, the effect in society, okay? So if I want to focus on the effect in society, that's going to be more policy-based, right? Because what happens with this new push for electric vehicles? Think about California a couple years ago. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on any of that, going off the top of my head, but there was at one point, California was thinking about, not sure if they did, of doing by 2030, I think, banning the make or the sale, maybe one of those, of gas vehicles in the state. Not that you have to get rid of your gas vehicles, but they were only going to be putting out electric vehicles. Yeah, I think those may not be all the facts, but that's talking about a matter of policy, right? So what's the effect of that policy-wise? It's gonna, if they put out legislation like that, that's gonna make it to where what happens now. They were talking about a couple problems, and I think that's why it may not have all the way went through. It may haven't, I'm not sure. I didn't keep up with it, but they were saying California's grid can't handle that. If they start only putting out electric vehicles, if even half of California got electric vehicles and were plugging their cars up at night, that their grid can't handle that. And I also heard that they weren't allowed to charge their cars overnight, right? Because their grid wasn't able to handle it. So that's the effect of that in society, right? That policy that they were putting into effect, they weren't actually able to do that, right? And then there's also the argument that I saw a picture the other day. It was like in the desert, so I'm thinking it was like in another country maybe. And they had a fueling station, right, for electric vehicles. It was a fueling station, and then it was like this big diesel. Obviously, I'm not privy to all of the ins and outs of electric charging stations. So there was a charging station here, a charging station here, and like in the middle was like a diesel engine or something like that, whatever they said they used to power the charging stations, right? But it was diesel, it used diesel, right? And so that's an argument in itself. You're using diesel for electric vehicles. How counterproductive is that? And this big generator runs 24/7, right? So that's an argument. And some people may argue, though, that you run the facts and the numbers, it uses less energy and it can charge 200 cars a day or something, right? That may be better. I don't know the numbers on that. Not that I'm necessarily picking a side, but like I said, there's different scopes. The scope means how broad or narrow the topic is, and how you frame the question means what we're going to be talking about. So is it factual, is it value, or is it policy? We'll get back to this in a second. I'm going to go over right now the 3 different methods of persuasion. Are there more methods of persuasion? Yeah, sure, but they all kind of fall under 3 different methods, right? So we have ethos, pathos, and logos. I'm sure all of you have kind of at least briefly touched on that in English classes. So we have pathos first, which is going to be the most recognized method of persuasion, right? That's using somebody's emotion to appeal, right? That's the Arms of the Angel commercial with the dogs with one eye and no arm, right? I'm using your emotion. But that's also a happy commercial. I'm selling life insurance, and there's a Travelers commercial that has like a happy family having dinner or something, and basically it's saying buy homeowners insurance so you can be a happy family because you're protected, not having anything to worry about if anything ever happened to your home, right? Basically, so buy homeowners insurance. It's invoking positive, happy, safe, secure emotions in the audience, right? They're persuading you because they're using that happy emotion, saying you want to be happy. You don't want to have to worry about your home and then a tree falls on it, whatever. Have no worries like these people and get Travelers homeowner insurance. So that was their method of persuasion. It was pathos. So obviously, sad is going to be a lot easier to recognize when they're using the eyeless dog or the St. Jude's commercials with the sad kids. Because could they have used doctors on those St. Jude's commercials? Yeah, they could have used a logos argument, which is logic, right? They could have used doctors, right? or that could be an ethos method as well. We'll talk about that. But on those St. Jude's commercials, they could have used doctors, right? They could have had doctors talking about why St. Jude's is the best place to go. They could have had just the parents talking about how St. Jude's has helped them financially, but they chose to put sick children on there, right? Why do they do that? Because that's a method of persuasion. They want you to donate to their cause. And how are they getting you to do that? They're saying, this is so sad. Don't you want to help these kids? Boom. Another argument would be an argument of anger, right? If I wanted you to donate to Ukraine, I might show you everything that's going on there. Tell you that this place was just bombed, and Russia did this, and that, right? So I might want to invoke a feeling of anger towards you. So in order to do that, I wouldn't show you dead bodies. That would be more sad. But I'd talk about the violence, right? So I would invoke a feeling of anger towards you. In you by using injustice. That's more of an angry argument for pathos. Next, like I said, we have a logos argument. When you're looking for a logos argument, you want to use logic. The easiest way to hit logic is to use numbers, right? Everybody understands numbers. Money talks most of the time. So look at this one right here. Does hiring foreign employees hurt the economy? Does hiring cheaper foreign employees hurt the economy? What's the easiest way to understand that? Cheaper, right? Money. Everybody understands money really easy. Money talks, right? So we use numbers in order to persuade our audience because it makes sense, right? And so just right off the bat, if I told you that we had those two charging stations and then we had the diesel engine in the middle, you're like, that doesn't make any sense, right? But I can persuade you that it's better for the environment by running the numbers, right? Logically speaking. So I can say, well, yeah, it does use diesel, but it uses less. The diesel that it uses is less than having 10 cars getting gas today, right? I can tell you just 15 gallons of diesel runs this charging station for 24 hours, and it can charge up to 200 cars. Oh, well, it's starting to make sense why they're using diesel, because even though they are using fossil fuels, right, it's still, in the end, the numbers are telling me logically it's less than if all these cars were putting gas in their car, right? So that's a logical argument. Let's see if I can find one of those. Okay, we'll skip. Okay, our last one is ethos, right? Ethos is a argument of credibility. That's Maybelline Makeup having Selena Gomez and Oprah Winfrey endorse their product. Oh, Oprah uses this. Look at her skin. You should use it too if you want skin like this. Oh, Selena Gomez uses this. Why shouldn't I? Right? And so that's using an argument of credibility. Doesn't necessarily have to be a celebrity. No, it doesn't. An argument of credibility can also be a doctor. So Dr. Carl Bob said this, this, and this. You should listen to him because he's an expert on this. You should listen to him because of who he is. So ethos is a method of credibility. If I want to tell you that you should get your dog from dog shelter, I could use an ethos argument by saying, well, Selena Gomez actually adopted her dog from a dog shelter, and she's an advocate for the Tame Humane Society, right? She donates $8 million a year to animal shelters. That's why you should do it, because these influential people that society cares about agrees with that argument, right? So that is the ethos argument. Some of these have multiple arguments, though. Do you have to use all three arguments? No, you don't. Can you use all three arguments? Yes, you can. Let's say, should guns be illegal in the U.S., right? So I can use a numbers argument, which is a logos argument, and say there's X amount of deaths due to gun violence each year. That's a logos argument. What's a pathos argument? Mass shootings. Talk about schools being shot. Just shootings at schools. Elementary schools, students that were unsuspecting that have no gun campus policies were shot at school. That's a pathos argument. It's sad. Can I also use a ethos argument, which is credibility? And I do have this on there because I know I'm kind of running through it for you guys if you need a reminder, ethos, pathos, logos, the difference. But can I also use an ethos argument for that, right? I can, because I can say this celebrity is an advocate for gun laws, right? Or no guns, whatever it may be. So there's multiple, go to methods of persuasion. Yeah, there's a video right here, which you do not have to watch, because I just ran through it, but that's the video. Yeah. And basically this video runs through different speeches and what methods of persuasion they use for you guys to agree with them. Do we have any questions about that so far?
What is this speech on? What are we presenting?
Not this class, but the next class. Let me look at the calendar too.
Next week?
Like Thursday? No,
Huh?
like Thursday or next Tuesday?
So look, next Tuesday, are we in class next week?
We're in
I think-
class until Wednesday.
If not,
Okay,
it's break.
That sucks. So we'll be in here Tuesday, right? Next class, I'm lecturing again, and we'll be working on our outlines and submitting our topics, right? That's what we'll be doing next class. Our outline will be due Tuesday, Thursday's Thanksgiving. What day is Thanksgiving?
Thursday.
The 23rd. It's not on the 24th.
No, it's the 23rd.
Okay. Anyway. So we'll go ahead and push our outline instead of being due on Thursday like we normally have it, right? We'll do it on Tuesday before class, okay? So just,
Outline is due 28th.
yeah, and I'll go adjust that in there. So your outline needs to be due before the 28th.
And when is
So
the,
when is the speech? Is that the
The speech will be on the 28th. So we have another class. I'll be lecturing on this class again. We'll be working on our outlines together. We'll be crafting an argument and a counter argument, and we'll be submitting those topics in class or after class, whatever. But you guys will have the time to do that, and then on the 28th, we'll give our speech. And that's it, okay? For this class. We're gonna be giving our speeches. Keep it in your minds for your persuasive speech. I'm gonna allow you guys, so we don't run into a thing where we went over, checking the time, 5 minutes. Where we don't run over. I'm gonna allow people to come in early and give their speeches before everybody gets here. So class starts 4:11. Do you have to be here 4:11 to give your speech? No, you don't. This is optional in order to get all the speeches done. But if you have a little anxiety about speaking, I'm only gonna be accepting so many people, okay?
So you could come in here and nobody's in here, we could do our speech.
Hopefully, the people giving their speech will be here, so it might just be like 3 people or 5 people, okay? You do still have to stay for the whole class when everybody else is giving their speech.
And that's at 11, you're coming at 11?
It'll have to be before 11.
Okay.
So I'm gonna get exact to y'all. I'll have to calculate how many people need to go before in order to not go
Yeah, I
overtime.
definitely want that, because Tuesdays I get out of class at 10:45, so I can go straight.
But that's not required, okay? So, mind you, I'm trying to finish up. Tuesday is it, okay? That's our last speech. Everything will be submitted for that, for this class by Tuesday. The only thing is, we have a reflection paper. It's been posted the whole semester though, okay? So you do, and it's gonna be due December 1st. That's the last day of classes technically. And then we have finals week. You guys have nothing for me for finals week. I would like to have all of my grades posted by end of the day on December 1st, right? That's what I'm looking for. So I like you guys to be able to focus on your real classes for that finals week. We're done at the end of the week, okay? So the only thing that's going to be left for you guys is your reflection paper. That's 500 to 600 words, which means it's 1 page, okay?
Okay.
If you want to do that now, go ahead, do it, get it out the way, right? I'm just looking for, did you like the class? What'd you learn? Your favorite speech? I have a couple guideline questions on that assignment, okay? But you don't have to wait till December 1st to do it. The earlier you do it, the earlier I get it graded, the earlier your grade's in, right? That's how that works. So on the 28th, I'm going to stay here after class until everybody's persuasive speech grade is done, so nobody has any questions about anything. And then I'm also, next class, going to go over our bonus assignment, just in case you need it, okay? It's going to be 25 points for you guys if you need the points. Good deal?
Yep.
So the 28th is the last assignment we have in here, our speech. So if your grade's not looking good, try real hard, and we can talk after class, next class, okay?
That's Jim. Remember, if you use Jim in the office.
That's what that dude looks like. The same man.
I saw that
Hi,
photo.
guys.
Yeah, I got
So who told you that they're not doing instrumentation?
Jacob told me, and then he, because
Well,
Mark told me.
Jackson said it was hard to schedule instrumentation.
So make sure outline due on what, the 28th or something?
Doing the 28 before class.
And speech. What was the 11 o'clock thing that you were saying?
So basically for the speech, as you saw last class, our speech is right over.
Oh yeah.
So a
Oh,
couple
so
people.
show up early.
Not everybody. So I'm gonna calculate how many people need
Oh,
to
you're
go.
gonna like email? Or something?
We'll talk about it next class. And so the whole class isn't able to come early and give their speech before 11, but I might need maybe 3 or 5 volunteers to come before. So you're not required to do that if you have class, I understand.
I don't have. This is my only class.
Well, there you go. So, but some people will be allowed to start giving their speeches ahead of time. No, not 11, before 11. So like at 10:30. Yeah, like I said, I only have an hour and 15 minutes for this class, but if everybody gives a 10-minute speech, I have 16 students. I'm not going to be able to fit everybody in that time frame. So in order to stop it, like today I had to give speeches the next class, which I don't want to do. That's not fair that some people have to go a week before the other. So I'm allowing a couple people, I think it's going to be like 3 to 5 people, can come give their speech early.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I'll go over it after next